Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Bertrand Derome. I'm Managing Director at World Design Organization, and we're thrilled to have you all join us with this information session on becoming a World Design Capital. Over the next 90 minutes, I will share insights and useful tips to help those interested cities submit a successful bid. Joining me today are my colleagues, Andrea Springer, WDO's Programs and Communication Director, as well as Eric Lowers, our Programs Manager for WDC. Also, a special guest with us today, Pau Rausell, is the Director of Economist, and since 2022, Pau has overseen the methodology and development of the Valencia's WDC impact study. Together, we hope we can present more detailed information about the bidding process, as well as answer any specific question that you may have. Later, we will also share video messages from leaders from two successful WDC bids, Mr. Xavi Calvo, CEO of the WDC Valencia 2022 program, as well as from WDC San Diego Tijuana 2024, who will share a bit more information about their bidding experience. Now, let's start with a little bit of history about WDO. WDO was founded in 1957 as the International Council of Societies of Industrial Design. And since then, WDO has advocated and promoted design-led innovation to help society improve quality of life in terms of economic, social, cultural, and environmental sustainability. Our community of more than 215 member organization connects 400,000 designers from around the world, coming from professional fields, corporate promotional organization, as well as educational. But most recently, the city pillar is becoming an important figure in WDO's work and program. WDO strives to ensure that design is used effectively and ethically to address sustainability issue in a number of different programs and action initiatives. And today, the World Design Capital Program is one of the flagship initiatives that promotes design at a level that will impact the quality of life of our citizens. Now, today, our objective is to cover a series of elements that will be relevant for our participants. We'll highlight some of the benefits of bidding and share some interesting insights from a few previous WDC cities, including some key takeaways from the most recent impact study from Valencia. We'll also answer some of the frequently asked questions, and we'll conclude with a few key dates and tips for you to keep in mind as you prepare to submit your bid. Before we continue, here we go. I would like, yes, to remind everyone to please use the Q&A section of your Zoom to put in your questions. We'll capture them throughout the presentation so that we can address them at the end of our presentation. We'll have two segments in which we'll answer some of the questions, some specific to Pau and the impact study, and some general questions you might have. You may also want to activate the anonymous feature in the Q&A. However, if you have very specific questions with regards to your unique situation, you may choose to send us an email directly. We'll be sharing Eric's contact information with you at the end of the session, and we encourage you to also send us a question at any time following this session and until the submission deadline. Now, jumping into what is WDC, World Design Capital Program. With over 3.5 billion people living in cities nowadays, and this number growing continuously, there is an urgency to explore new strategies that can respond to the needs of those citizens. Since its inception, WDC has become a platform that demonstrates design has a positive impact as a catalyst for change and is a key variable influencing quality of life in cities. The WDC program is a social initiative, which is design-led, bringing stakeholders together with a common goal. And it's a design-led project that has social impact, and we'll see at different level how it can impact the quality of life and the prosperity of your city. Now, before jumping into too much details, for those who may not already know or are a bit unfamiliar with the WDC program, WDO has awarded the designation of World Design Capitals to city every second year since 2008, with our first designation going to Torino. Since then, Seoul, Helsinki, Cape Town, Taipei, Mexico City, Lille Metropole, and Valencia have all completed year-long programs of design-led projects in their respective communities. With a focus on quality of life in cities, WDC seeks to recognize a city's innovative use of design to strengthen the economic, social, cultural, and environmental development. For the first time in its history, WDO awarded its first binational designation to the region of San Diego-Tijuana, who is currently rolling out their 2024 program, and the region of Frankfurt Rhine-Main is now actively developing their program of events for WDC in 2026. With that in mind, we now look ahead to 2028. I would now like to invite Andrea to join us to briefly present some of our WDC activations through the years. Andrea.
Sure. And thank you, Bertrand, for that nice introduction. Thank you, everyone. Nice to connect with everyone and talk to you a little bit more about just a few examples that we can see from the previous World Design Capitals. Here, what we wanted to demonstrate was really that, World Design Capital is an opportunity really for the mobilization of communities. In this example, we see here from Helsinki in 2012, around 40,000 participants gathered for the New Year's Eve celebration to kick off the World Design Capital year. Other fantastic examples that we can demonstrate are, in this instance, with regards to World Design Capital, Mexico City. The Espacio CDMX is a space that was previously used as the workspace and service center for children's railway station in the Chapultepec Forest in Mexico City, but had been for many years unused. As a result of their designation with regards to World Design Capital 2018, the city gifted the space, and in a regeneration project, the space then became what we now refer to as the pavilion or the information center for World Design Capital, as well as the headquarters for the 2018 program. Today, this continues to be a significant example of the legacy of WDC in Mexico City and is now utilized as a space for a variety of different workshops, exhibitions, and different projects related to design and available to other cultural groups in Mexico. This example is perhaps one of my favorites. It really demonstrates how World Design Capital was not just about demonstrating design in the community, but it really showcases the significant support that was received by the city government and especially the city mayor to we often talk about the importance of bringing design around the table. And this just kind of showcased that for the duration of their year, this is Cape Town 2014, the WDC, not just its brand, but the ethos of bringing design at the forefront of discussions was quite present in what we're seeing right now is their city council chambers. So you can see that really design was showcased throughout the year in Cape Town. Our next example very quickly is an interesting project that was commissioned by the Department of Cultural Affairs in Taipei during their WDC year in 2016. It was a project that was done with the Taipei MRT system, their metro system, to do a design project in a couple of their metro stations where they refurbished some of their cars to become a kind of mobile showcase for design. And it really brought the World Design Capital program, became more accessible to the general public and created lots of interesting points of interest for their community throughout the year. And of course, most recently, we can see the example of the Agora Valencia, which was the pavilion constructed in front of City Hall in Valencia during their WDC year in 2022. The pavilion became really quite a central hub for a variety of different activations throughout the year and really became the anchor or the central beacon, really demonstrating a variety of different design initiatives that was engaged by the community throughout the year.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Very interesting to see how every city puts forward their own design DNA, their specific approach in engaging with our community stakeholders to put forward a great program with their initiative. Now, maybe we can explore a little bit of the benefits of bidding to become a well-designed capital. For diversity of stakeholders that will be involved in the bids. We'd like maybe to highlight a couple of the elements and benefits that you can get from becoming a WDC as we go back to our share screen presentation. So some of those benefits, the first of one that we hear from every bidding city, whether they get designated or not, going through the process of building that bid will get the design community together to connect, to share experiences, ambitions, and explore their own specific DNA. It will help the community understand where they're at and where they want to be heading in the future. But beyond connecting the design community together, it will also open doors to public administration, policymakers who will get interested in positioning their own city, as well as accomplishing their own mission and their own ambition through a design-led project and initiative. So this connection is a great door opener that allows investment in design as we've rarely seen without such a program and such an initiative. Beyond the design community and policy makers coming together, the industry will also be a support in a well-designed capital program so that synergies can be created between all those different stakeholders so they can connect and improve and leverage each other's capacity and strength. Also, the return on investment that is expected from a well-designed capital, as we will explore in further details with Pau Rausell in his impact study for Valencia, we've seen that both the investment in the program itself, but also the clarification and the strategies that come from the development of a bid and a vision for how design will contribute to the improvement of the city is important. And lastly, but not least, fostering citizen pride is also important in understanding that design is so embedded in our everyday lives, in every public service that we use, in how our cities are built, designed, and improved through time. We will gain this pride from citizens understanding how to leverage this high potential for them. Now, to get the perspective of a stakeholder who recently presented a successful bid as a World Design Capital, we will hear in this brief video Xavi Calvo, CEO of WDC Valencia 2022. Now, let's hear him.
Hi everyone, I'm Xavi Calvo, and as co-director of Valencia's bid for WDC 2022 and CEO of World Design Capital Valencia 2022, I'd like to share with you some of our experiences in the whole process of preparing the bid and becoming World Design Capital. Valencia made the decision to bid at the beginning of 2018. Although that year was dedicated to seeking alliances, possible sponsorship and institutional support, previously it's true that some months before, some people talked about presenting this candidacy. But it was not until March 2018 that an executive direction, Pau Rausell, with an economic and cultural role, and myself as strategic design, was commissioned. So during 2018, we were cooking the big recipe, keeping a low profile, and on the first quarter of 2019, we did the hard research, paperwork, and put it in the oven. This was our bid book. We were working really hard for 3 really hard months, a team directed and organized by a couple of people, a person from comms team that currently is our director of communication, and myself, a designer, and the other co-strategic director. Asking for content to some parts of Valencia public administration, such as tourism office, who had a lot of expertise in this kind of bids, and lots of designers were also called for help, developing some ideas and parts of the main index. At the end, probably 4 people were working full-time in the bid book, with a great net of collaborators, with another team working also on the video. When I look back, the main benefits of developing and submitting the bid was the great success that is today this amazing project. I mean, I always said during this process that the journey was the reward, and I must admit that launching this candidacy motivated great generosity from the entire local design collective. This project has motivated an unprecedented illusion. It was the right moment in the right place, and the community focused in 2022 to achieve this milestone. So, developing the bid strengthened ties, created a more united community, and above all, generated the feeling that we were capable, reinforcing our self-esteem like never before in history. Some of the highlights of our WDC experience until now have been creating this special relationship with the WDO. You must understand your relation with the WDO as a tool to make grow your own community internationally. That is a great commitment. Another great highlight, and this is very important, has been that the public administration believes in design more than ever. They call us to become some sort of counselor in design issues. And that's because we have been named by this international organization. It's not something we created for ourselves. This experience has given us credibility. The best thing about being World Design Capital 2022 is the projection that we have. Suddenly all the doors have been opened, the planets are aligned in the sky, and in only 1 year, the local design community has achieved more projection and social institutional commitment than in a decade. This sounds like magic, but it isn't. To be honest, this is probably a longer work involving some previous generations, but as I said before, this was just the right moment and one thing led to another. Probably the best advice for cities considering a WDC bid is to prepare a honest bid. Choose a main theme and do not try to tell a story about an ideal city or a perfect design local community. Just write about your case, also about your problems, and work and make some research about how to fix them through design. Probably that will be the basis of your whole bid, a commitment to make a better city through design. For us, for the city of Valencia, this has been amazing. Good luck.
Thank you to Xavi Calvo for sharing his comments on the bidding process. And I'd like to put the spotlight on something he mentioned about the role of WDC bid as a door opener. I think it's a pretty unique opportunity that a design community has to be sitting at the table with the city mayor, with the state governor to discuss how we can use and leverage design to accomplish some of the ambition that our policymakers have for their own city in improving its efficiency, its quality of life, its inclusiveness. So this is part of the process of the bidding, of mobilizing your stakeholders and getting them to understand better the potential design has. And in return, we've seen those bidding cities get investment in design and in design-led innovation that they've rarely seen before. Now, we also have a short video from a few of the key stakeholders involved in the bid to become WDC San Diego Tijuana 2024.
One of the main benefits of the World Design Capital designation is that it gives you a sense of purpose and a platform to explain the positive impact design has on your community. It's very common that design can be invisible or is ignored because something just works. So this gives you a powerful message to rally around and to explain to the world the design capabilities of your city or your region.
It's the opportunity to show the rest of the world all the things that we already know to be true about our fabulous binational region of Tijuana and San Diego. The incredible designers, the provocative ideas, the transformational businesses, and the attitude about design and the potential it has to transform our world for the better. And sharing that with the rest of the world.
Receiving the designation has already paid off in reinvigorating both cities and increasing collaboration. We have lofty plans to tackle societal needs using new forms of collaborative design. I call it humanity-centered design. We need to design a better world, one that is meaningful, sustainable, and humanity-centered.
What advice do I have for cities that are considering the bid? I would honestly say, stop considering and just do it. You're gonna learn so much about your city, about your strengths, about all these different resources and talents that maybe you didn't even realize existed as you start to network and branch out and really do that cataloging of what is available. And then just knowing that whether you get it or not, you get so many ideas on ways to improve your region, your city, the area, that we automatically were like, we're gonna do some of these projects even if we don't get the bid. And so just going through that exercise and having that awareness and then putting forward those intentions, I think is invaluable. So just start, just do it.
My advice for cities who aspire to be World Design Capital in 2026 is to know your community, know your talent, and don't be afraid to show what you know that you are capable to do in terms of design and innovation.
Applying to the World Design Capital designation, I just have one piece of advice. Be true to your community, to the roots of your community. Be authentic and communicate that in a very clear way. Be candid about the challenges you have and how are you going to tackle them. And also how is the World Design Capital designation could have a positive impact on your design community. This is the opportunity to shine and to show the powerful roots of your community.
Other interesting comments here from our WDC 2024, reminding us of some of the benefits we discussed earlier of bringing the design community together. And when we say the design community, we're talking about all design fields coming together for World Design Capital program: industrial design, graphic design, user experience, urban design, architecture, with the ambition of addressing some of the city's main issues. Both Xavi Calvo and the WDC 2024 team expressed the importance of being true and somewhat transparent in your approach. Yes, we want to showcase and highlight the strength of the design community, of what design has accomplished within the city, but the designation also aims to support and showcase the ambition of a design community and their stakeholders and policymakers into continuing to improve their city. And the San Diego Tijuana team, with their bid, with a clear focus on human-centered design, wanted to address some of the wicked issues that a city can be facing, whether in their specific case of being a binational designation and region, of the redesigning a border and the flow of people crossing the border every day for work. Also wanting to explore how by design, we can address issues, social issues like homelessness, and how to leverage the DNA, the high-tech industry DNA of a region to continue to improve the quality of life of all by designing a more inclusive city. So those are some of the examples that we're able to learn and share from each city, each with their own specific DNA. And now if we go back to our presentation to explore in different some of our past world design capitals, some of the impacts and legacy the program has brought to some region, we'll see here in that in Helsinki, the designation of World Design Capital, the program and the development of the culture within the public administration, the development of a strong design culture led for them to understand the importance of having a chief design officer within the municipal office. A chief design officer that is responsible to promote the use of design throughout the different division of the organization. And it's something that clearly, when you meet municipal employees in Helsinki, this understanding that the city will improve by a human-centered approach, a design process, engaging with the communities and population is important. And now this design culture is implemented throughout the organization and leads to the implementation of very impactful programs and initiatives. Going back to some of our examples, if we jump to Cape Town, Cape Town, with a very different DNA than Helsinki, also showed an impressive development of the design culture and the engagement of the communities also, with initiative launch in each of the over 100 wards of the city, and the implementation of an improvement strategy with a set of priorities that are supported by this design approach and this design mindset. We've also seen in Cape Town the economic return on investment for communities, where now some of the most visited places in Cape Town emerged through the WDC program to put forward the craft community and the local design that they have. And they now have also a better than ever capacity to implement project within the city with a social acceptability, because they engage through a design process and make those projects more accessible and easier to implement. And the economic benefits with direct and indirect financial impact for the city government and the communities that continue to show their importance. Now, Coming back to our special guest that we mentioned earlier, for us, we're quite proud to have with us Pau Rausell-Koster, the director of EconCult. Pau is a researcher in cultural economics and professor at the Department of Applied Economics at the University of Valencia. He has published books and articles in specialized magazine in the press on topics related to communication and culture. And since 2022, Pau has overseen the methodology to evaluate Valencia's World Design Capital program and the development of the city's WDC impact study. Now, Pau, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi to everyone. First of all, I would like to point that I am delighted to be here. And I was also, like you in 2019, in your place, considering the possibility of presenting the city of Valencia as a candidate for the World Design Capital. And I must to tell you that it was a very exciting intellectual project and very fun personal process. So I encourage you to keep going. My role here is to show that analyzing the impact of becoming a global design capital is a complex process whose analysis requires a clear theory of change. And I want to be very clear on that. From an analytical perspective, it is necessary to understand that organizing a world design capital involves design and produce events, programs, and actions that can ignite through different pathways, different processes of transformation that ultimately become impacts. Our model implies that the production of events, which are accessed by citizens in person, through digital access or through media access or social networks, and they access there because they are more or less challenged and involved in these events. In other words, there is some kind of resonance, that is a philosophical concept, between individuals and events. And that provokes the cultural experience that is more or less our unit of analysis. This cultural experience activates aesthetic, emotional, cognitive, or relational impacts to individuals, to citizens, that in some cases inside political or market answers imply the resignification of certain symbolic contents, improve our knowledge or our networks of relationships, or involve new uses of spaces or territories. And this final provokes societal impacts. It is this more or less spontaneous process or more or less induced reactions that eventually turn into impacts, be they social, economic, environmental, cognitive, or political, which we can track through indicators. So but we have to be aware of the direction and complexity of all this process, which goes from the production of events, of the production of the World Design Capital, and the impacts, or to the impacts through this transformative process. If we translate this conception into a more visual scheme, we can see that the dimension of impacts are related, all the impacts are related, and here we can already look for and locate the indicators to work with. In this picture, we can see, for example, that events attract visitors, and there's some kind of market reaction to these new visitors, to this new added expenditure from visitors, and generates reactions in the market in a multiplier process. But we can also analyze how a better understanding of the potential of design can lead to a change in citizens' perception of urban quality, or to change in interest in design, or to change in local policies concerning the design sectors. In other words, each of these small bubbles or these small balls in the image become indicators that we have tried to follow in the impact assessment. Systematizing and systematizing and specifying for the case of Valencia, and also according to the information we have available and the goals of the project, we have tried to measure in quantitative terms the following list of concepts. So we measure the economic impact of events, the economic impact on the signer's activity, the economic impact on all the productive system of the region, that is to measure the content of the sign of the all productive system in the region. Of course, the economic impact of in the value of branding of communication on the city. There is a mistake there. There's the first social impact, it was to measure the changes in the well-being of citizens, or the impact in the perception of the quality of urban life, or the impact on urban engagement and participation of citizens. In the environmental impact, we tend to measure the impact of this program of events in the environmental awareness, or to measure in a more restricted dimension the ecological footprint of all the events in the city. About the awareness of the sign, we first of all, we measure the event visibility, and of course, a very important variable that we think that is very important is the impact on the awareness of the importance of the interest of the sign of the citizenship of Valencia. And of course, the capabilities on the sign of the general citizens, the institutions, and the public in general. And finally, we measure the changes in the architecture of the sign policies in the city. Which is the logic of this process of measurement? First of all, we look for the right indicators depending on the availability of information, and if we can produce or not, or is too expensive or not to produce this kind of information. But we try to measure all the indicators before the World Design Capital, during the World Design Capital, and after the World Design Capital. And then we measure these different points, and the second point is the second step is to see if there were changes or not in these measurements, and if the changes are statistically different, that means that they have to accomplish some kind of technical rule to be statistically significant, and if the changes could be explained by the celebration of the World Design Capital, or there are other variables, other factors that could explain these changes. So about the, well, we in all this process, we made 2,500 surveys to the participants in the events, and more than 10,000 surveys to citizens in 9 waves. Some were digital waves, some other were direct waves from all the citizens of Valencia. And finally, at the end of 2022, the 57% of the population of the metropolitan area of the city of Valencia, that are more or less 1.8 million of people, knows that the World Design Capital was celebrating, and there is a very high degree of generic acceptance of endorsement to the celebration. In a scale from 1 to 10, we have the endorsement of an average endorsement of 8.6. That is a very high number. If we see at the economic impacts, we can see that the celebration of the World Design Capital provokes a new turnover of the city in an amount of 70.9 millions of euros. From these 70.9 millions of euros, almost 30 millions of euros, 29.9, were new income for the citizens of the city, or economic agents of the city, 811 new jobs, and a return in new taxes of 9.5 millions of euros. And then finally, the activity generates a brand value of more than 24 millions of euros. That is in economic terms, but I think that's probably not the most relevant impact of the city. And we try to measure other variables, as we show in the theoretical approach, and we can detect that there is a multiplier effect of the public funding. That means that for every €1 of public funding, the city increase in 5.7 times the income, the 4.8 the city brand value, and in 1.8 the tax return. That means for every one of public funding, the public sector has a return of 1.8 in taxes, in new taxes. So it's a relevant and significant economic impact. But as I said before, this is not the most relevant dimension, and we try to measure many other things, and we try to measure these changes about variables and indicators about general life satisfaction has changed or not, the commitment of citizens to associations, trade unions, or political parties, the satisfaction for living in the city, specifically in the city of Valencia, the perceptions about the city improvement, the comfort of living in Valencia that will have been changed by some design actions, and the degree of importance of housing condition and the physical, environmental in personal life. And of course, we measure also which changes in the political system are produced due the celebration of the World Design Capital. We are in this process. The process is not finished. We still measuring things because in some changes you need some times to see if the changes are produced or not. But as we are a research unit in the University of Valencia, we're still counting and researching and making measures to see all the dimension of the impact of becoming a world design capital. So thanks for your attention. I am here for hearing your questions or your comments.
Thank you so much, Pau. Congratulations, and a great impact study that you've conducted. And please stay with us for a quick Q&A on the topic of the impact study. As you mentioned, you've been involved way before the year of designation in 2022. I remember to prepare the bids, you were even involved then, and it's very interesting to see in your presentation as well how an economist can present to designers the impact design and the ramifications that design will have within a city, within its social, cultural, economic, and environmental aspects. And I'm wondering, if you look back at 2019 and your expectations when you were starting to prepare even a bid, and you already knew, I think, at the time that you wanted to study the impact of design, what were your perception back then, and maybe some of the surprises that you've had during the process going through the exercise?
Well, I have to say that at this time, and that is why Xavi Calvo, that it was the right moment at the right place. So we were finishing a European project about the role of design in changing cities. So that was a European project researching about the role of design. That this project was called Designscapes, and was very exciting. And we were a big team of European researchers from design sectors, but also a lot of economists and sociologists and so on. So we had at this moment pretty close and precise idea of the role of designs in the city. So, and then we apply in the BITE book or in the BITE process this more we can say, more analytical approach to the process. But what really surprised me is I am used to deal with cultural agents and creative agents also, but the reaction of the design community was so impressive, so homogeneous, so so no small groups, no dissidents, so everyone goes in the same direction, in the same way. That's very surprising, the reaction of the design community.
Interesting. So we do see the mobilization and engagement of the community as a key factor, and happy to see that it applied to your work with the impact study as well. And if you had recommendations for other bidding cities and other cities and design communities out there, some of the learnings we could extract from the work you did in the impact study that you've conducted, I think it would be beneficial, because we do require every designated World Design Capital to produce an impact study. And we do have on the website some of the results of those impact studies. They've been conducted with different framework and different approaches. We do hope to build on the structure that you're establishing here. What would be some of the learnings and recommendations that you would have for other cities and design communities?
Well, the first recommendation is to consider that this is not only some kind of administrative process beside the celebration of the World Design Capital. This is what to evaluate is a process to think about what we want to change, what we want to transform in reality. So it's the same process. It's not a technical answer to the demand of the World Design Organization, but it's a way to think in what we want to transform. So the second recommendation, of course, we need a general framework, but then the case of the cities are very different. The information availability is different. The DNA of each city is different, and the goals of the bids are different. So in each case, we have to think in a general framework, but to adapt and to specifically to the goals of the city and the resources for the process of evaluation and the data availability in the city.
Great. Thank you so much, Pau, for sharing those insights with us. It's a journey that has only begun. And as for all World Design Capital, Valencia is now part of the network of cities of WDO, a network who continues to meet throughout the years to continue learning on how design is implemented, leveraged, how the design culture is developed, how it is structured. And so we're quite proud to have this new member in the family of the Network of Design Cities. So thank you so much, Pau, and looking forward to continuing that discussion.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Pau. And so talking about legacy of a World Design Capital program, it is a key objective that WDO has to make sure that designations and the program of the organization will have long-standing impact. And so looking into the future of WDC Valencia 2022, a shining example of legacy is the establishment of the Design Foundation in Valencia, whose mission is to promote and strengthen the economic, creative, and social aspects of design in the Valencia community. Its initiatives focus on the promotion and dissemination of design as an instrument of creation of value for companies and professionals, and a lever for change and growth in the social sphere as well as in the economic and cultural setting. The foundation aims to promote a center for design and digital arts, projects strategically aligned with Valencia Marina, where it will be located, as a hub for innovation and design. It will support the Valencia Design Archive and will foster the future Museum of Design and Digital Arts, as well as work to promote the international vision of design outside Spain. The Design Council was also constituted by the local government board of the Valencia City Council in September 2022. It is the most significant WDC 2022 legacy project, becoming the first design council for a town hall in Spain. It is coordinated by the Fondazione del Ticini. Now, I will now invite Eric and Andrea to join me for our next section with our most frequently asked questions. So thank you, Eric and Andrea, for joining us now.
Bertrand. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A. And thank you, Bertrand, for introducing this next chapter in our webinar. So the frequently asked questions. And thank you, everybody who's on board here of our webinar. It's an honor and a privilege to have you. And it means that you are, of course, serious to bid for 2028, World Design Capital 2028, or maybe for a next cycle in the future. So it's fantastic to have you. And the frequently asked questions, we have 10 questions in total, are a number of questions that we have selected that will help you in preparing your bid. And these questions are recurring questions. Usually every cycle, we get these questions from a number of people, and hopefully the answers we provide you with today will be, as I mentioned, helpful in preparing your bid and the next steps forward. So the first question is, can a bid be submitted by a government department? The collaboration with government partners is important, but ideally, they are not the primary partners putting forth the bid. So what we mean by that is that we ideally want to see a bid coming from the design community, so that it is a grassroots bid and that is developed by the design community with the design community, and of course, supported by your local or regional governments that are fully supporting the bid going forward. And ideally, you also have other stakeholders, key stakeholders that are promoting and supporting the bid. Next question, please. What's a letter of guarantee and why do we need to include one in the bid? The letter of guarantee or letter of credit guarantees financial support and commitment to the program by confirming the budgeted amount allotted to a WDC. So when you bid, there's a section in the bid application related to finances. And of course, we want to see in that section that your bid is financially supported by a local government or different stakeholders. So the letter of guarantee expresses that commitment to your bid financially. So it is to us and the organizing and selection committee, it is a concrete proof that the money will be made available if your city gets selected as host city for WDC 2028 or a future WDC. Next question, please. Third question, who participates in the city visits and will the selection committee attend? The city visits are performed by 2 to 3 members of the WDC organizing committee. Members of the WDC selection committee do not attend. So what is important here is that there are 2 committees involved in selecting WDC 2028 or future WDCs. So you, on the one hand, you have the organizing committee. This is the more of a secretarial function. So it is chaired by somebody who is heavily involved in design and members of the WDO Secretariat, including myself, Bertrand, and Andrea, and we prepare as organizing committee all different aspects of the bidding going forward. The selection committee, however, is a selection of experts in their field. This could be designers, but we also have had psychologists, anthropologists, we have had artists, architects, etc. And the selection committee will, based on the feedback they received and the documents and reports they received from the organizing committee, convene on a regular basis to select one, the shortlisted cities, and two, the final designation for WDC 2028. So there are two committees involved in the process. Next question, please. How much should a city budget for WDC? There is no magic number. Each city has a different benchmark. As a start, interested cities should consider a range of 8 to 15 million euros. This amount includes a management fee of 630,000 euros over 3 installments. So again, based on our expertise with different WDC cities having hosted World Design Capital, we know that the benchmark that you see on your screen, 8 to 15 million euros, is a reasonable figure to organize and to host a decent local, regional, national, and international program, as well as organize your project with the organizing lead. Below 8 million euros, we recommend not going below 8 million euros because that might be difficult to organize a decent program below 8 million euros. And the management fee is included in that amount. It's a management fee of 210,000 euros per year, split up in 3 installments, so 630,000 euros in total. However, there is also a bidding fee involved. So when you submit your bid, we ask you to pay a bidding fee of 10,000 euros. If you get selected, shortlisted as a city to go to the next phase, we also ask you to pay an administrative fee of 30,000 euros. Next slide, please. How much of the budget should come from government sources? A good target to consider would be a 60-40 split, with the majority coming from public funding. The government contribution to the budget should be sufficient to cover implementation of all WDC signature events and management of the standalone entity. Again, 60-40 split is it's an average. It is based on our experience. However, we have also seen situations where the split was 50-50, or more in favor of funding coming from private funding than from government funding. But on average, we say that 60-40 split with a focus on more public funding is reasonable. The total amount, of course, should cover organizing a decent program with signature events and the management of the standalone entity or organizing lead. Does my city have to sign the host city agreement or HCA? The dry answer is yes. However, the host city agreement or HCA is the backbone of our relationship, the relationship between the host city and WDO. So it is the contract that includes different aspects, for instance, on the sponsorship, on the communication, on organizing the signature events, and it is considered to both parties as the contractual obligation for hosting WDC and the backbone of our relationship. Next question, please. When do cities have to sign the HCA, and can we request changes? Cities will receive a copy of the HCA for signature once they have been notified that they have signed the NDA on non-disclosure agreement. Changes are not permitted. Next question. Why do we need to create a standalone entity? A standalone entity or organizing lead is required to guarantee sufficient space and resources to implement a program of event. And ideally, we want to see it as a standalone entity from any other involvement, government involvement, or any other stakeholders, so that it can operate all by itself. How does WDO measure the success of a WDC? The impact and success of a WDC is measured by the impact study and closeout study, as well as ongoing dialogues with stakeholders at all levels in the designated city. So you have heard this from Bertrand in a discussion with Pau, and Pau has presented several impacts of the WDC in Valencia. The word impact is a recurring word in our relationship as well. As of when you get designated, as of the moment you get designated, we will start discussions with you, meetings with you, orientation meetings, and the word impact always comes back. So hosting WDC is one thing, looking at in the long term, and what is the impact of hosting this WDC in the longer term is also part of hosting World Design Capital. Thank you. How does WDO measure the success of a bid? Successful WDC bids answer all the questions clearly and in full. They have shared a clear vision for the WDC year and engage a variety of local stakeholders. So we want to see in your bid answers to all the questions that will be shared on our website in the future. So this will be in September, and they have to be answered in full. So we want to see a clear, as it was also mentioned by Xavi, it has to be an honest bid and fully respond to the questions that we will share in the future. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A, and we will answer them afterwards.
Thank you so much, Eric, for taking us through those frequently asked questions. I see in the chat we have some questions coming in. Natalie, would you like to highlight some of them for us?
Absolutely. We have a number of really great questions. So thank you all for attending and for asking these questions. I'm going to start with a question we have from a designer who's attending our webinar today, but doesn't necessarily have a group or someone that they're connected with already in considering the WDC bid. So they're asking, how do I find the WDC community in my city so that they can get involved in the next project? Or do they kind of organically have to start their own group?
Bertrand, are you taking that question?
I can start, and please jump in, Andrea and Eric. So we do see in a lot of cities the Design Association, the National Design Association or State Design Association taking somewhat of a lead in with the ambition of building a bid for World Design Capital. So there are oftentimes already existing organizations, whether it's a professional association, a promotional organization that can be somewhat of the anchorage for a design community to start building the community and extending the stakeholders beyond the design community itself to reach out to whether it's the tourism office, it can be the culture department, industry department at the city. So depending on the DNA of the city itself and the ambition that the community has, we do see those different scenarios coming up. Maybe you have other examples, Andrea?
Yes, and I think also WDO can probably be a very good resource for an initial exploration. As an individual designer, as you mentioned, I'd probably suggest to either verify on the WDO's website or contact us directly to see if there are members, existing members in your region. And most of the time, following events such as this, we are notified of those initiatives that are being started in different cities with regards to the WDC bid. So as Bertrand mentioned earlier, if there is some sort of consortium that has already been formulated at a national or regional or local level, then maybe we can help to connect the dots, to connect you with your local institution, and then therefore you can work together. So again, I would say reach out to WDO, either yourself online or to us directly. And if there are activities already in place, we'll help to connect those dots.
Thank you, Andrea.
Great. Another question, during the FAQs, we talked a little bit about the city visits. So we have a question that asks, do the WDC, the terminology here is examiners, but we know this is our organizing committee who makes the visit to the shortlisted cities. The question is, do they have a general criteria or expectations when visiting the candidate city?
Maybe start with part of the role of the organizing committee is to support the selection committee in their work on the bids. So the selection committee will have two meetings. So the first one for shortlisting cities. A phase out of which the selection committee will have questions, will be wondering and will be want to know in a little bit more details some elements coming from the bid. It is also the opportunity for WDO as an organization to vet and validate that what was included in the bid can actually be found on the ground. It's a way to meet the community, the stakeholders, to evaluate the strength of that community that is backing up the bid, and to explore any of the questions that the selection committee might have had for to push further their reflection and the discussion for their final meeting for the designation of, in this case, the WDC 2028.
Great. I have a bit of a specific question here. Someone asks, if a city in our country has already been selected as a World Design Capital in the past, will it affect or reduce the chances of other cities in the same country being selected for 2028? Does WDO have an existing policy on two cities from the same country applying?
There is no such policy, and each bid is looked at on an individual basis. So it's the strength and the ambition of the bid itself that will be evaluated and measured by the selection committee. The ambition of the program is to get the most impact out of the program, out of the designation. So we invite any city to come forward and present themselves. We know in each region, in each country, every city has their own specificities in terms of potential issues, but also their specificities in terms of general culture, design culture, and what they envision for themselves for the future. So it's on that basis that every city's bid will be taken and analyzed on an independent basis.
And also, Bertrand, if I can, we at WDO strive to really work with the network of cities that come to us through the channel of World Design Capital. So additionally, we're also very open to working with cities that may have already submitted a bid and are interested in, through the evolution of their design objectives and their design community, or perhaps interested in resubmitting a bid. We are also quite open to that as well.
Thank you.
Great. A few more questions. We do still have a little bit of time. We have a question around budgets specifically. The question is around the availability of previous World Design Capital budgets for examination, review, comparison as cities are preparing their proposals and their bids? Does WDO provide examples or budgets from past World Design Capitals?
Maybe a general note, and Eric, you can comment on some available documentation, maybe, but on a general basis, the bids that cities provide are kept confidential. We don't present and share the bids that are provided, but some cities might decide to make them public, and so therefore you can count on the confidentiality of the process until they're shortlisted. So the first information the public will get about the cities that are contending to get the designation in when we will announce the shortlisted cities for a maximum of 3 cities. And therefore, at that time, we will know who are those shortlisted cities, but it's their choice to make the content of their bids available, which is the case of some cities, Eric.
Yeah, correct. Yes, thank you very much, Bertrand. It's also what I would also like to add is that, of course, a lot has changed over the past couple of years in terms of the inflation has gone up significantly. So there's a lot of strain on different budgets. So comparing budgets that have been issued in the past with budgets today, I think it would be a difficult exercise.
Thank you. And I think at some point, I know WDC 2024 had made their bid public and available. I don't know if it's still available online and or if we can point it to them. But those are maybe some of the examples that we can share if we connect directly with you.
Great. We have a question from a WDO member specifically who's asking how can they get their WDO member organization involved in WDC, potentially not to host and submit a bid, but how do they submit projects for a World Design Capital initiative if they were to be selected?
Andrea, please compliment here because we know every city has had their own approach to how to launch calls for contributions to a WDC program. But at high level, I would say that part of the WDC program has signature events, a set of events that every city will hold, including a signing ceremony, public events, some international conference, a design policy conference, and so on to make sure that we have some continuity in between World Design Capitals. But every city will want to put forward their own design community initiatives and projects. And we've seen cities launch public calls to get projects included under the umbrella of WDC, and the format of those calls has varied from city to city, but it is somewhat consistent that those cities want to engage, want to promote as much as possible local initiatives, local projects. So I would say the newsletters of the organizing lead in a designated city is a key point of focus to get informed, to know how will those calls, projects, and initiatives be structured and be put under the umbrella of the WDC program.
So Bertrand, you touched all the points and didn't really leave much room for additions there, but I think the important thing to maybe just highlight is the World Design Capital designation is really a 4-year commitment. Year 1 is really in the administration and the setup, and year 2 and 3 in advance of the actual designated year itself is really when the program development happens. So for example, Capital, now would be a good time to, as a WDO member, to reach out to the existing or the upcoming World Design Capital. In this case, it would be our Frankfurt Rhine-Main WDC 2026, as they put out their calls for their programming for the 2026 programming. And as you mentioned, our signature events are really the opportunity above all else to work within that city to have that more international component. And those signature events are crafted really so that calls can be made to our international community to participate, as you mentioned, Bertrand, in things like the festivals, the World Design Experience, the policy conference. So as you said, keeping an eye out on those calls from the World Design Capital hosts themselves, as well as through our newsletters and social media channels. Or again, I want to preface this by saying the importance of being in communication with WDO directly to say, our organization, we have an interest, we'd like to participate in the WDC program. We can there, again, bridge the gap, connect the dots between you and the host, and hopefully identify some opportunities to you to contribute to their programming.
Thank you, Andrea.
Great. I have one more question for us. The question is around the impact study. So we might bring Pau back in to answer or complement some of your answers. The question is, do the cities present their impact framework and forecasts as they are bidding, or is it after the selection and the experience of the World Design Capital year?
Yes, I can answer that question. I think it is after the selection. Because, of course, cities are, when they are in the bidding process, they will focus on their bids, the preparation of the bids, and the impact study is only a small part of that, of the bid. And so once a city gets selected as World Design Capital, we will start the discussions around the framework. WDO has prepared a framework. We will share that framework with the host city, and then we will start discussions, for instance, with the Pau or with San Diego 2024, World Design Capital 2024, or World Design Capital 2026. So it is a process that starts once the city has been nominated. How do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's clear. So you have to think something before or in the process of bidding, but I think the real and the strong effort should be after.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think the upside on your end was that you came with that framework of mind already. A lot of bidding cities don't have that necessarily.
And thank you, Eric and Pau. This allows me to kind of use it as a segue and a reminder of something Xavi mentioned in his video, for all of you to develop your relationship with WDO. The organizing committee, the team at the Secretariat is there to support you in your efforts in putting forward a bid. So please feel free to share your questions. We're there to help you out to put the best bid forward in front of the selection committee. And once the designation happens, the team at WDO will be there all along the way, both in terms of programs, in terms of communication, in terms of project management, providing guideline tools, to make sure that the process, the structure of the organizing lead, the process that are put in place, the work happening in developing the program and the communications around it are aligned and of the highest quality. So do see WDO as your partner in this journey. We're there to support you, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll be there for you. So moving forward, Eric, with some key dates and milestones moving forward.
Yep, thank you very much. So yeah, you can show the next slide, please. So we will launch a call for bids on the 10th of September 2024. This will be launched on our website. And so that date, we will also share the application, the bid application questions. So for some of you who might maybe already have downloaded the 2026 bid application questions, know that this will provide you with some kind of framework, but we always make changes to the application questions. So it is important that on the 10th of September, you use those application questions only. So the submission deadline is on the 28th of February 2025, which leaves you with 5.5 months to prepare and submit your bid. So the deadline to submit your bid is the 28th of February 2025. As of that date, the vetting of applications starts, which means that the organizing committee will go through all the bids received, get in touch with any of the bidding entities if some documents are missing, as well as on our end, the organizing committee will prepare everything needed for the selection committee to shortlist the bids. So there are a maximum of 3 cities that can be shortlisted. In May 2025, we will announce the cities that have been shortlisted. As of at that time, we will start preparing with the shortlisted cities, the city visits, which will take place in June or July 2025. And then based on the observations by the organizing committee, and the organizing committee will issue a full report to the selection committee, and the discussion and decision by the selection committee of which city will be World Design Capital 2028. We will announce through a press release which city will be designated in August 2025. As of then, we will work with this city to prepare for a full announcement at the World Design Congress in London in September 2025. So this is the timeline with key dates in the process.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Pau, for joining us today and sharing valuable knowledge and experience. Thank you to the team behind the scene making the magic happen, as well as to all participants today joining us from all time zones around the world. We appreciate your time and interest. Before I leave you, let me share the premiere of the trailer From Tradition to Transformation, a short documentary produced by WDO on the year-long WDC Valencia 2022 experience, which will be launched soon. So stay tuned for more info. Otherwise, we wish you the best of luck in your bidding process and a great journey with your community and stakeholders. We're looking forward to supporting you in that process. Have a nice day and hope to meet you soon. Bye-bye.
El disseny avui té una missió clau i és precisament ser capaç de millorar la vida de les persones.
Me parece fantástico que sea esta organización mundial la que pone el diseño en el centro, diría, de un país cada 2 años.
Una palabra que defina a Valencia, yo creo que calle.
Yo diría luz.
Creatividad.
Yo a Valencia la veo viva.
Diría que Valencia es insólita.
La primera sería equilibrio.
Y otra palabra sería el caos.
Verda e innovadora.
Los retos que debe abordar el diseño pertenecen mucho a la nueva forma de vivir de la gente joven.
Esta ciudad ya será para siempre capital mundial del diseño y creo que todo el territorio valenciano ya ha demostrado que es una capital mundial del talento.
Yo estoy segura de que hay un antes y un después.